We're in Adobe Animate 2021, and what we're going to do is import buttons that were created in Photoshop into Adobe Animate, into the layers. And the buttons have the normal layer, the hover layer, and the down layer, as you can see right here. Here's Photoshop, and here's our normal, hover, and our down layer. So over here in the Layers panel of Photoshop, you see the bevel and emboss and gradient overlays. And you also see the background. We're not going to import the background. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going back to Adobe Animate, is go to Import to Stage. And here's the PSD file, the buttons interface file. And we get this window. And we don't want the background. All we want is the buttons. We don't want editable paths and layer styles. We just want a flattened image. We don't want lossy. We want lossless, so we're not throwing away any data at all. And we want to convert to a single animate layer. And place objects in original position. And import. So that brings us here. And you can see in the library, the button interface folder is here. I can actually rename these, this being the normal, hover, and down. Also a layer has been created which says button interface. I can just call that button. And what I'm going to do now is get rid of two of these, the hover and the down. And I'm going to convert this to a symbol, and I'm going to convert it to a button symbol. Go to Modify, Convert to Symbol, and go to Button. So now I have this in my library, which means I can pull out as many as I want. I'm going to delete those for right now. And I'm going to go into my library, and I'm going to double click it. And as you can see, we're in scene 1 right now, which is the main scene. When I double click this, I'm going to go into the timeline of the button. So I'm going from almost into a movie within a movie. So now you see there are 4 keyframes. The normal, the over, the down, and the hit. So I'm going to populate all the keyframes just by coming up to Insert Keyframe here. 1, 2, 3. Now for the over, what I do is select the button. I come over to Properties, and I'm in Object, and you see there's a swap, these 2 arrows. So if I'm going to swap the hover, and I do the same thing in down. I select the keyframe, so also select the button, come back over to Properties, Object, hit the swap, and I'm going to do down. Now I'm going to go back from the symbol scene, which I'm in now, again, a movie within a movie, and I've populated all the frames. I'm going to come back to the main scene, and the button should be ready to go. So I'm going to test it by going to Control, Test, which is going to open it up in a browser. And one thing about Animate is if you look right here, Animate creates its own server. You see the IP address up here. So the buttons work. They're not attached to any type of navigation in the timeline. This is part 1, and part 2 will be setting up the navigation.